So let's talk about the petrodollar. A lot of people throw this word around, but nobody actually explains what it is, where it came from, and why it matters so much right now. That's exactly what I want to do today. I want to break this down completely, from the very beginning, why it was created, how it actually works, and what is happening to it right now. Because what's happening right now is very, very important, and most people have absolutely no idea. So let's go back. Let's go back to 1971, August 15th, 1971. Richard Nixon goes on television and makes an announcement that shocks the entire world. He says the United States will no longer allow the US dollar to be converted into gold. Now you're thinking, wait, what does that mean? Why does that matter? Let me explain. After World War II, the entire world sat down and made an agreement. This agreement was called the Bretton Woods Agreement. Basically what they said was this: every currency in the world will be tied to the US dollar, and the US dollar itself will be tied to gold. 1 ounce of gold equals $35. Fixed, that never changes. So what this means is that any country in the world, any government, any central bank could take their US dollars, walk into the US Federal Reserve and say, I want gold, and America had to give it to them. That was the deal. That was the system. And for about 25 years, it worked pretty well. But here's the problem. America started spending way too much money. You had the Vietnam War, you had the space race, you had massive government programs like Johnson's Great Society, and all of this cost money, a lot of money. So America started printing more dollars than it actually had gold to back them up. Other countries started to notice. France noticed first. President de Gaulle sent ships to America loaded with US dollars and said, give me my gold. And America panicked because if every country did what France was doing, America would run out of gold completely. So Nixon goes on television and says, we're done. The dollar is no longer backed by gold, just like that. This is called the Nixon shock, and it is one of the most important moments in modern economic history, but nobody teaches it in school. Nobody talks about it. So now you have this massive problem. The US dollar is worth nothing. Before, the dollar had value because you could exchange it for gold, real physical gold. Now it's just paper, just a piece of paper with a dead president's face on it. So the question becomes, how do you create demand for something that has no real value? How do you make the world keep using the US dollar when there's nothing backing it up? This is where it gets really interesting. This is where Henry Kissinger comes in. Kissinger goes to Saudi Arabia and makes a deal. A very simple deal. America says to Saudi Arabia, you will sell your oil only in US dollars, not in pounds, not in francs, not in gold, only dollars. And in exchange, America will protect the Saudi royal family. America will give them weapons. America will guarantee their safety. That's the deal. Saudi Arabia agrees. Then, one by one, the rest of OPEC agrees as well. Qatar agrees. The UAE agrees. Kuwait agrees. And just like that, the petrodollar is born. In 1974, it becomes official. Now think about what just happened. Think about how brilliant this was. Before, the value of the dollar was tied to gold, something real, something physical. Now the value of the dollar is tied to oil, and everyone needs oil. Every single country in the world needs oil to run their factories, to fuel their cars, to heat their homes, to move their ships. Everyone needs oil. So now, if you want oil, you need dollars first. You have to buy dollars before you can buy oil. This creates an enormous, permanent, worldwide demand for US dollars, just like that, out of thin air. That is the petrodollar system, and it is the foundation of American economic power for the next 50 years. And here's what most people don't understand. When countries buy US dollars to purchase oil, what do they do with the extra dollars? They don't just stuff them under a mattress. They buy US Treasury bonds. They lend money to the American government. So America gets to borrow money from the entire world at very, very low interest rates. And America uses that borrowed money to build its military, build its technology, fund its universities, and project power all over the world. That is the machine. That is how the machine works. The petrodollar is not just a financial system. It is the engine of the entire American empire. Now I want to go even deeper because this is where it gets really fascinating. Think about what Saudi Arabia is doing with all these dollars it's collecting. Every barrel of oil it sells, it gets paid in dollars. And Saudi Arabia is selling millions and millions of barrels every single day. The dollars are piling up mountains of dollars. And Saudi Arabia doesn't need all these dollars just sitting around doing nothing. So what does it do? It takes those dollars and recycles them right back into the American financial system. It buys American weapons. It buys American real estate. It buys American stocks. It buys American treasury bonds. This recycling of petrodollars back into the American economy is called petrodollar recycling. Almost nobody talks about it, but it is just as important as the petrodollar itself. Because think about what this means for America. America prints dollars. Those dollars go to Saudi Arabia in exchange for oil. Saudi Arabia takes those dollars and puts them right back into American banks and American assets. America is essentially getting oil for free. It prints paper, it gets real energy in return, and then that paper comes right back home. This is the most profitable trade deal in the history of the world. And America set it up in 1974. It has been running ever since. Now let's talk about what happens to countries that try to break this system, because this is very important. In the year 2000, Saddam Hussein announced that Iraq would start selling its oil in euros, not dollars, euros. Now you're thinking, so what? Who cares what currency they use? But America cares very, very much. Because if Iraq sells oil in euros, other countries might do the same thing. And if enough countries stop using dollars to buy oil, the demand for dollars collapses. The whole system starts to fall apart. So in 2003, America invades Iraq. And one of the very first things American forces do when they enter Baghdad, before they even secure the city, is they secure the oil ministry. Not the hospitals, not the water facilities, the oil ministry. And immediately after the invasion, Iraq goes back to selling oil in dollars. Do you see the pattern? Then there's Muammar Gaddafi. Gaddafi had a big idea. He wanted to create a pan-African gold currency called the gold dinar. The idea was that African and Arab nations would sell their oil not in dollars, but in this new gold-backed currency. Other African nations were very interested. France was especially panicked because France has enormous economic interest in Africa. So in 2011, NATO intervened in Libya. Gaddafi was removed. And the gold dinar idea died with him. Do you see the pattern again? And then there's Iran. Iran has been trying for years to sell its oil outside the dollar system. It set up something called the Iranian Oil Bourse, where oil could be traded in euros and other currencies. And what happened to Iran? Sanctions, crippling sanctions, complete isolation from the global financial system. Are you seeing this now? Every single country that seriously threatens the petrodollar system gets dealt with. Every single one. And I'm not saying this to be dramatic. I'm saying it because if you understand this pattern, you understand American foreign policy for the last 50 years. It's not complicated. It's actually very simple once you see it. Now let's talk about what's happening right now, because this is where it gets really, really interesting. For the first time in 50 years, the petrodollar system is genuinely under serious threat and is coming from multiple directions at once. The first big thing happened in 2022. Russia invaded Ukraine, and America responded by freezing Russia's dollar reserves. $300 billion of Russian government money just frozen, gone, just like that. Now you might be thinking, okay, Russia deserved it, whatever, but think about what every other government in the world was watching. Every government on the planet sat there thinking, wait a minute, if America can just freeze Russia's dollars, can they freeze mine too? And the answer is yes. America can freeze anyone's dollars because those dollars are held in American banks and American-controlled financial systems. So now governments are scared and they start asking a very important question. Why are we holding all our wealth in US dollars if America can just take it away whenever it wants? So you see central banks all over the world start buying gold. China is buying gold. India is buying gold. Saudi Arabia is quietly buying gold. Poland is buying gold. Even countries that are American allies are starting to move away from the dollar. Then the second big thing happens. Saudi Arabia starts having conversations with China about selling oil in Chinese yuan, not dollars, yuan. And this is a massive deal. This is a really massive deal because Saudi Arabia is the very country that started the whole petrodollar system in 1974. If Saudi Arabia walks away from it, the system is finished. Now, has Saudi Arabia fully committed to this? No, not yet. But the fact that they're even having this conversation publicly is something that would have been absolutely unthinkable 10 years ago. And then you have BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and now more countries are joining Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Iran, Egypt, Ethiopia. These countries are actively working to build trade systems that completely bypass the US dollar. They're trading with each other in their own currencies. They're building their own payment systems. They're reducing their dependence on SWIFT, which is the American-controlled global banking network. And America is watching all of this very nervously. So now you understand why American leaders are rushing to China. You understand why all those business executives were brought along. You understand why stablecoin legislation is being pushed so hard right now in Washington. Because America knows the petrodollar system is under pressure. America knows that the old mechanism where you just force everyone to use dollars to buy oil is starting to crack. So America needs a new mechanism. And that new mechanism is digital dollars, stable coins. The idea is very simple. If you can get the entire world using digital dollars on their phones, in their apps, in their daily lives, then it doesn't matter if oil is sold in yuan or euros because people will still need dollars for everything else. You just replace the oil anchor with a digital anchor, same system, new technology. And this is why China is so important right now because China has 1.4 billion people. And if you can get those people using dollar-backed stablecoins, you have essentially extended the petrodollar system into the digital age.